Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. These are conversations with remarkable people whose passion and ideas can contribute to a better world. Today, we're talking with Sean and Angie Ellerbrook. Sean, a highly respected research scientist, outdoorsman, holds a PhD in cancer research from Northwestern University, and is a member of the Wartburg College staff. We're also joined by his wife, Angie, a nurse and partner in Sean's quest to join the Iowa legislature representing House District 57. Together, they represent a new generation of highly qualified Iowans hoping to shape a healthy future for Iowa. Sean, Angie, welcome to the show. Angie, let's start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you feel about this journey with Sean.
All right. Thanks for having us, Peter. So I'm an Iowan from the get-go, and I was raised in South Central Iowa. Um, I grew up on a farm with my three brothers and had a wonderful childhood. I met Sean when I went to college at University of Iowa, and we've been married for over 28 years. We've got three children. Like you mentioned, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 10 years. It was a second career move for me. Before that, I was a computer programmer, and I felt like I needed a little bit more in my profession and to feel like I was giving back more. And I wanted to make sure I had a profession that would help help me feel complete. Um, our three children, they are all out of the house now. We've been recently empty nesters. And so that's kind of been a big change for us and giving Sean and me a little bit more time to do our own things and focus on some different things than just raising the kids.
Now, Sean, you've been, this was a novel thing for you. And, I've known you from canoeing and fishing and always loved your unfortunately very successful fishing escapades compared to some of us. Um, but you have some real, your background in cancer research, your issues. What are some of the things you see is important? I know that represents what your family feels is important, your friends and the greater community, and things that have evolved to sort of need a new brand of leadership,
Mhm.
especially with the knowledge you have. The old boy network in Iowa is probably no longer, even though it's still okay, it's no longer as precisely functional to deal with the problems that we have. Why are your problems so important, and why are you so uniquely qualified to face them?
When you look at part of the Iowa landscape, you hear things like brain drain and inability for young Iowans to find employment. And it's overall a situation too where people are concerned about their health, certainly access to health in rural areas where we've got closures of hospitals and other care services, retirement centers, etc. And then folks are absolutely paying attention to the cancer rates that we have in the state. As many of the watchers may know, where Iowa is second in the country now for cancer rate and one of the few states that's increasing. And water. Everywhere I go, individuals are bringing up the conversation about poor water quality in the state. And really, then what it comes down to is the idea that you've got health issues and water's part of it, right? And you've got the brain drain and a lack of opportunity. All of the things that I'm looking at as a candidate and that I'm interested in changing involve creating an Iowa where people feel comfortable with their health, have access to health, feel safe, and actually have those opportunities that they'll put up on the billboard when you drive in to the state, right? They used to have land of opportunity or field of, and now it's freedom to flourish, I think. But the point is, we have to create that environment where Iowans feel like this is home, and I can indeed flourish here.
Now, in terms of targeted issues, and I know water is this fantastic solvent, but that also means that it can carry bad things into people's lives as well. Is there a correlation between our water quality and cancer rates in Iowa?
Well, it's the the thing about cancer as a genetic disease, it's got so many multifactorial causes. And so you're right to, have like the Iowa Cancer Consortium or the Cancer Registry and their 99 counties tour talk about things like obesity and binge drinking and smoking. But honestly, Peter, those are high risk factors in a number of other states that are actually seeing decreasing cancer rates. And so, in fact, if we take those cancers out of the report that are caused by behavioral activities, Iowa still ranks second or third in the country in cancer rates. And so what you're left with is going, well, what is remaining? And honestly, you look at radon, because we've got high radon in the state, and you look at agrochemicals. And one of the main ways that those agrochemicals are delivered into our environment, certainly through food crops, right? But also through our water. And so we're paying close attention to things that we find in the water. And those are nitrates and PFAS and pesticides and all of the byproducts that might be associated with trying to maximize yields in crops, or from the waste from these CAFOs. There's a variety of places, point source and non-point source, that contribute to poor water.
Well, let's take a short break. When we come back, I'd like to hear some of your ideas on how to work towards resolving some of these problems in a more favorable way for Iowans.
Yeah.
See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
This is how we do at MC22. 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 Providing you entertainment when you're bored out of your mind, on our channel or the Plus and online anytime.
From the Quad Squad to the Spirit Lakes team, we bring your local action straight to your screen.
This is how we do at MC22.
There is a road laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking about some very important issues for Iowans: water quality, cancer, and ultimately, a form of security, whether it's health or finances, how to maintain this resource called Iowa. Sean, I want to ask you a question. I hope I'm not rocking the boat here, but, ethanol has been a big issue. And it's interesting now because in the view of all this inexpensive and cheap oil, ethanol is a really poor way to deliver energy. But Iowa's going all in on it, and it's pretty well documented that it's had a very negative effect, not only on water quality, but water supplies. I mean, the amount of water an ethanol plant drains out of these watersheds is putting communities like Des Moines at risk for having enough water for its citizens. Now, I also imagine that the less water there is to flush all these extra chemicals and things, the higher the concentration of the dangerous things. So this is a very complicated issue. But you are a research scientist in chemistry and cancer, so you probably have a better way to organize those thoughts than I can. What are your feelings about that relationship with the industrialization of agriculture and the health, not just cancer, but also, other health attributes that might happen from drinking some of these chemicals?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Peter. That the idea of corn to ethanol, as you say, is it's a challenge, because it certainly is a benefit in that it helps prop up corn in terms of a buffer on what you might get for your bushel of corn. But the thing is as you say, it takes up water, and as we put in that carbon pipeline, you're going to have more and more ethanol facilities, and we're just going farther and farther down that row of fence row to fence row, maximize yields, and we're going to continue with releasing a lot of chemicals into our environment, trying to achieve. And I want to make sure we're clear on this. We can't blame the farmers. The farmers are doing what they can, but they're in an unenviable situation because they can't keep the seeds, right? They got to buy seeds fresh every year, and that comes at a cost. There's a monopoly on fertilizer. Their production costs are so high that the margins are so thin that they can hardly achieve a situation of win because they've got the price of the equipment they got to pay off, the land is high. So it's a very challenge for the farmers. And so we need to support the farmers in efforts to lower nutrients that are
Now, let me
in
ask you a
the water.
question, because this problem has evolved, in my opinion, from a lack of good legislative and governmental action to deal with these issues. So now we're sort of behind the 8 ball, which also intimates that the old elected leadership was probably using quote unquote outmoded technology, so to speak, in terms of looking at this issue, or maybe outmoded science, or maybe not as up to date as they could be. Do you see a win-win solution here for farmers and the communities?
There has to be. And go ahead. Ian.
Oh, I would say my father farms, he grows crops, and you'll hear different opinions from different farmers, but my father is not a fan of ethanol. He wishes that we would be growing food, not for ethanol. And he does get a byproduct of ethanol called distiller's grain, so he'll feed that to his cattle, but still there's so much processing needed to get to that point. And back in the day, everybody has fond memories of growing up, but we had oat fields on our farm. And I do not see as many oat fields as I do now, not now as I did in the past. And I did hear Quaker Oats in Cedar Rapids gets most of their oats from Canada. If that's true or not, I don't have the details on that. But I see Iowa having the potential for other crops to grow, but that's not
Right. And then you look at Iowa State and the research, they're focusing on improving corn, improving beans, finding lower, nutrient application work for corn, and, trying to use less nitrogen. And those are important things, but they don't do enough in terms of like seed development for oats and supporting crop diversification, at least to the extent that they should. So from a playbook, this is hard, right? Because so much of our economy is based on agriculture, and the legislature, as stewards of the budget of the economy, they're anxious to not necessarily rock it, and there's some other things going on there. But when you look at what we can do, I spoke with Matt Helmers and did an interview with him. He's the Iowa State professor who's head of the Iowa Nutrient Reduction Program. We spoke in the fall, and he's like, we know what to do with these buffer strips and these wetlands and things that we can do to lower the amount of nitrogen that ends up in the waterways. We know we need to move away into more pasture, a more perennial system, but with what we have in play, it's tough because the farmers, first off, they're getting older. So, there's a how much energy, for the cover crop, how much energy to put these strips in, everything. And it costs money. Some of these leading farms that have been held up and saying, look, we can do this work. It takes 10, 12 years before they get to the point where they've achieved enough wetland, enough buffer strips. And it's an expensive process. So we got to look at things like actually funding the natural resource and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund, and that in 2010 we as a state voted in, but they've never funded. That's the 0.375% sales tax. That money right there could be used to help farmers put this in, or Iowa revenue stamps, which is just basically goes into a general fund or housing fund for the state. There is other pots of money that we could use to help get the water levels low.
Well, we're going to take a short break, but just before we go to that break, Angie, you've been listening patiently. Just speaking for your father, do you feel that there's a generation of farmers, even aging ones, that are ready to make changes like this for the benefit of the future of Iowa?
I think there will be many with open minds. However, when you think about the equipment costs, that would be something that's really going to put a stop on change.
Yeah.
Because if you need whole different types of combines and things, that could be a deal breaker.
Okay, so it's going to take some work to craft a
Yeah.
solution. Let's
They
take a
care
short
about
break.
the environment.
They definitely do. Yep.
Excellent. Let's take a break. We'll see you after the break. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. This is sort of fun.
Local programming at your fingertips. Access to MC22 is easier than ever before and available to all MediaCom subscribers. Go to mc22.net, log into your MediaCom account, click Watch MC22, and then browse our catalog of local programming available for you. Anywhere, anytime. mc22.net/watch.
Dear future, we haven't met yet. We don't know what you look like. But at MediaCom, we think about it every day. And we'll say this: if we keep working as hard as we have the past 3 decades, if we keep adding miles of fiber, if we keep advancing our technology, if we keep raising the bar and raising each other up, we won't just be ready for you, we'll be leading the way. Sincerely, MediaCom.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking about the politics of change and how a new generation of political candidates are shaping the future of Iowa by looking closely at things like water quality, cancer, and evolving a future that's sustainable for Iowans and future generations of Iowans. Sean, talk about this project you have looking at water and cancer correlations.
Yeah, we had discussed how important it is to improve Iowa's water quality, and one of the signs in its relationship with cancer was I was looking at a map of the 56 counties that had the highest cancer rates in Iowa. In fact, they were the counties that were above the national cancer rate. And when you look at those counties, these are the ones that are driving Iowa to the second highest rate in the country. And I looked at this map and I was like, I know these counties. And so I overlaid it with the map of the major waterways, watersheds for Iowa. And it was like a hand of glove. And so what you're looking at is the notion that there is a correlation. We know the difference between causation and correlation, but there's a strong correlation with what counties in the state of Iowa have the highest cancer and those that are nearest to the major waterways, like the Iowa River, Des Moines River, Cedar River. And when you look at then those waterways, this is where you get the runoff and the concentration. And this is significant because when we look at those contaminants in the water, like the nitrates and the PFAS and the functions, those are cancer drivers. We know this. And I got to say right now, there are 2 things about those chemicals. One is, for example, nitrates. When you read that since 1990, the EPA has set the nitrate limit to 10 parts per million, it doesn't mean that's less than that is safe. No amount of nitrate is safe. That 10 parts per million is to avoid acute effects like blue baby syndrome. And the second thing is when we assign those standards, we do so isolated. We don't talk about the synergy that can happen between chemicals. Like 4 parts per million of nitrates may not be great, but that plus PFAS or glyphosate or something like this, in that water together can synergize and be more than they could be individually. And that can lead to more cancer. So we understand that if we do a focus on improving our water quality, that will likely lower our cancer. And it's important because even if we stopped everything right now in the state that's driving our rates up high, even if we stopped right now, we're going to have to deal with high cancer for a number of years because the insults, the carcinogens that drive cancer, those have already happened to many of us. And cancer takes years to develop. So unfortunately, we're going to have to ride that wave of cancer out if that's what we stop right now.
Well, and that's what's frightening there is that the statistics show that cancer is affecting a younger and younger population. So we've got sort of two things working against us. Not only this terrible increasing cancer rate and high cancer rate, but it's attacking younger and younger people.
It is. I mean, you look at the leukemias, lymphomas, the prostate cancer, bladder cancer, some of the things that are, and pediatric cancer that are associated with agrochemical exposures. These are things that we're seeing, the other cancers that are high in this state. And we need to want to make Iowa a better home for everybody involved, and that should be our focus. And it can start right now with lowering cancer rates and doing so through helping our water quality.
I've met with some young professionals, and when asked about what I call the Iowa brain drain, part of it's economic, part of it's the diversity of jobs available. But guess what entered into the dialogue? I don't know. That's a dangerous state for cancer. We don't think it's wise to necessarily stay here until the problem starts to be solved, because cancer is one of those things that scares everybody.
Yep, it does.
Now, what do you think? And this is sort of a trick question. We got a little bit before a break here. What do you think you can take to the legislature that can help move this platform forward?
Well, the Iowa Democratic Party has put out a water plan, and part of that is to infuse a budget that appropriates some money so we can increase water surveillance monitoring, because right now it's actually going the other way. And then there's more money that we can use to assist farmers in adopting those practices that we know will help lower nutrient reduction costs. We need to do a better job with policing waste management plans. Okay, and then if there are fines, right now the fines are pittance. I would love to see the fines be higher for the bad offenders, whether it's Nishnabotna water or some other event where we actually have a sizable fine that they can go into a pool of money to help with some of the things we do. From the cancer part, we also need to take a look at radon. It costs money to mitigate. We should be given some tax credit for that. We should be offering more and more free radon tests. We should be requiring new home builds, new residential builds to be mitigated for radon on the front end as part of the bill, because it's a lot easier to do it on the front end than it is to do it afterwards. I mean, there are things, and we got more taxes that we should put for alternative tobacco products that we're seeing that could go a long way to helping lower our lung cancer. So there are definite legislative pieces that can be accomplished to help Iowans deal with what they have in front of them.
Well, let's take a short break. We come back. We're going to ask Sean and Angie to share some final comments, insights, and inspiration for Iowa voters this coming election. See you all after the break.
Mediacom Mobile. You'll love the service and the savings. Unbeatable nationwide coverage. Unlimited data. Unbelievably affordable. Switch and save 30% or more over the top 3 mobile providers. Get unlimited mobile for just $40 per line per month. Bam. No hidden fees, no contracts. Switching is cake. Keep your phone, keep your number, everything you love, except the big bill. Mediacom Mobile. Call or shop online.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we explored some cornerstone issues Iowans are concerned about and their expectations for a healthy future, and how a new breed of elected officials can steer a pragmatic path forward. Let's see what insights and inspiration our guests have to share. Sean?
So Peter, when I consider all of the issues that surround the state or in the state, I understand we have to focus because it can almost be paralyzing when you think of all the things. So my focus as I've said, is on water and cancer, and I feel well suited to handle those based on the fact of my 30 years of cancer research, my advocacy, my work with organizations like the Iowa Cancer Consortium, certainly my chemistry background, but all of the information that I've acquired and the plans that we have in place, that as soon as I get into the Iowa legislature, I can work with Hans Wills and Austin Bath and some of the existing representatives to craft and create bills that will immediately help Iowans with these important aspects. The other thing is I care deeply about education. I've been a professor now for over 20 years. I'm the president of the Waverly Shell Rock School Board. I understand in the ins and outs of public education, and we have to invest in our future by investing in public education in this state. So 100%, I'll be focused on creating a better situation for public education.
And Angie, for the final comments, what would you like to share?
Well, I am really excited Sean's got the energy to do this kind of work, this legislative running. It takes a lot of energy when he already has a full-time job. And I don't think people think about that sometimes, how challenging it is to have a day job when you're also running for office. So he's put a lot of energy and a lot of effort into that, as well as other things he does for the community too. And his heart's really in it for the right reasons. And I know that. I don't know how other people are going to know that unless they just know him. So hopefully this will help get the word out that Sean's running for office. He's a good guy. We've been married for quite a while, so maybe that's proof. I don't know. But
well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about your story. We know this is a preciously small amount of time, but you've done an excellent job of showing about some issues that are very close to the hearts of Iowans. Thank you all for joining us and watching today. Stay tuned to MediaCom MC22 and MC22.net for all of our episodes of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration with some of America's most remarkable people. On MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.